Hey, welcome back to Girls Planning Gaming. Today we're going to be talking about Overwatch. Overwatch is a free-to-play game by Blizzard Entertainment, and it is a multiplayer first-person shooter that is hero-based. Usually you're going to play in 5v5 matches, and you can queue up with your friends or solo queue for some practice. Like in most games these days, there's going to be a ranked version where you can play to earn a certain rank as you do better, or there's just a quick play version. There's also arcade, where there's different game modes that will swap in and out based on the current season and some events that are happening. The characters in Overwatch are called heroes, and much of the game is based on which one you choose to play. So when you're first choosing what kind of game mode you want to play, there is open queue, and then there is role queue. In open queue, you'll just pick any hero that is available that you'd like to play once you get in there. In role queue, you can queue up for a specific role that you'd like beforehand. You can do one of them, two of them, or any of them, so that you can make sure that you get the playtime that you want. You've got damage, tank, and support. Now, all of these can actually do some damage, whether it's with their abilities or with their guns that they have. You will always be able to hurt the other team in some way. Doesn't leave anybody defenseless. Damage is going to have higher damage, as it sounds like, and they generally have a lower health, so they're a little bit squishier and it's kind of hard for them to stay alive. Tank will have more health. They have an emphasis on mitigating damage, which is preventing it before it's ever done to their teammates, and they have a lot of survivability, so they'll be able to stay in those fights for longer. And finally, support. They focus on healing and shielding, but don't be confused about them just being healers, because they definitely have the ability to boost other people's damage or do damage themselves as well. Along with your roles, you also have hero types. Now, this is not strictly necessary to be able to play the game, but it really helps when you're thinking about your team composition. So there's dive, poke, and brawl. Now, dive is all about mobility. It's getting right into the fight. They often have a dash or something that will let them speed up or move around really well. Poke refers to being able to stand on the outside of the fight, usually range, and being able to damage the enemy without having a lot of damage done to themselves. And then finally, brawl. Those are going to be your tanky, close-range heroes. They're really built for prolonged fighting. Generally, you'll see all three of these hero types in all three of the categories of roles, so you can choose them based on your playstyle and the preferences of the people that you're queuing with. The controls work kind of like you'd expect for any other game. You're going to be using W, A, S, and D for movement, or the joysticks if you're on a controller. And then for shooting, it'll generally be left clicking, or the triggers, again, if you're on a console. Other abilities will be with E, right click, or shift. Then sometimes for a few of the heroes, there are a weapon switch on 1 and 2 of the keyboard. When you load into a game, it will put you into one of several randomly selected map types. So those are going to be escort, push, control, flashpoint, and hybrid. So each map and game type has synergy with different heroes, so you might want to choose your hero based on what it is, but you really don't have to. So for escort, you're going to be pushing a payload to an end goal. You must have an attacker within range of the payload to move it forward, and it'll move backward if only one member from the other team is near it without it. The speed is also buffed when you have more players near it, so you definitely want your whole team to be on pushing that payload. The next map type, called push, is when you're escorting a robot that's going to be pushing a barrier towards either your side or the enemy team's side. You want to be the team with the farthest distance pushed by that robot before the time runs out, or you'll automatically win if you get it all the way to the other team's side. You do have different spawn points for this, so if you get a little further, you're going to have an advantage because you'll spawn closer to your robot. Another type is control. This is where you're fighting over an objective area. This is done in a best of 3 format. So the point will unlock, and then either team can try to control that area and maintain it. If the non-controlling team has a team member that steps into it, when it's 99% or around there, it goes into overtime, so the other team has a chance to oust that controlling team and take over for themselves. Then there's Flashpoint. This is very similar to Control. It's just multiple points, one at a time, throughout the series of the game. Then you have Hybrid, which is taking over a point and then pushing a payload from there. To go over a couple of the real basics, let's start out with Ashe. We're going to talk about her in a few minutes more specifically, but she's kind of a pretty easy to understand hero, so we're going to do this with her. You want to shoot the enemies will be red, and anything that is an ally, like those bots down there, will be in blue. Shooting a headshot will always do more damage than shooting a body shot, and you'll see that when I hit that, there's a little marker that spikes out from the center, and that's how you know that you have hit it. As you do damage and just go about time, but it goes faster the more damage you do, you're going to see that that little percentage indicator up there is going to keep going up. And when it reaches 100, which I will demonstrate with this power-up, then you get your ultimate. So you'll be able to pop this hopefully a couple times throughout the game, so you'll want to be able to strategize that, not leaving it too long, but, you know, doing it often enough that you'll be able to have it be useful and also to be able to use it again. When you die, you respawn at your spawn point, and in some game modes this can change throughout the game. There's no penalty for respawning, you don't lose anything, it just takes a couple of seconds, so it's detrimental to your team, obviously, and you want to stay alive if you can. However, since there's no gold or acquiring items throughout the game, you don't really have to worry too much about dying a lot. If at any time you want to check the stats, hold down tab and you can see how many eliminations, assists, and deaths you have, as long as the damage you've dealt, health, and mitigated damage. You'll be able to see this for all of the players on your team and all of the players on the other team. Then there's some more specific stats that are hero specific on the right in that tab below her name. Another note is that you'll be able to change what hero you're using whenever you're in a spawn area, and that will be marked with the yellow plus symbol over a doorway. You just want to make sure that you are thinking about how far along you are in progressing towards your ultimate, because you will lose that progress when you switch to a new hero, so you want to make sure that you don't have that much built up or that you've just used it. Thanks so much for learning about Overwatch with me. I'd love to hear about your favorite hero and why in the comments, or just leave me a note if you want to learn anything new next time. See you later.